All right, and welcome to Kaisa and Hilary. So pleased to have you here today. Kaisa, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Welcome to you both.
Oh, thank you, Becky. And thank you for doing the tech work and everything you do for our Zero Abuse Project and Survivor Space. This is Transforming Trauma Through Creative Expression. And today our guest is Hilary Dirlam. And I'm thrilled that you're here, Hilary. Since 1991, Hilary has been the program director for the Blue Ridge Old Time Week in Mars Hill. And she's the founder of the Old Time Herald. And she's also the author of Banjo Without Tears and the Celestial Jam books, and a multi-instrumentalist, really, really well-known and well-beloved among people who are aficionados of old-time music. And also, she's spent extensive time making music and sharing the music of Tibet and Nepal. She's a member of the Nobody's Darling String Band. I know that from 4 to 6 p.m. Saturdays at Jack of the Wood in Asheville. And one of the things I love is how she's collected the chants of the Copan monks and the nuns of Cachao and really created beautiful music that's intensely healing. Yeah. Welcome, Hilary.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here and be included in your project.
It's an honor to have you here. It really, really is. So one thing that we focus on is transforming trauma through creative expression. And your mode of creative expression all your life, it seems, has been music. So how has being a musician and living in your music helped you transform the trauma that's happened in your life?
I think in a lot of ways. I mean, I loved music from the beginning of my life, and I remember songs that maybe I heard people singing and records, and I think one thing about abuse that I learned that was very useful to me is that it changes your brain chemistry. Uh, uh, you know, so the rest of your life, your brain chemistry is different because of the abuse. And finding that out was really very grounding for me because it got rid of the last vestiges of, oh, somehow this was my fault, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the other music also changes your brain chemistry and in a really good way. And so at a real basic level, I think making music and listening to music for my entire life has been incredibly healing. And so that's just like a sort of a basic answer, right? But
Yeah.
I also have had a compulsion to follow sounds. I mean, I've several times been listening to music over the radio when I was driving the car and had to pull over and stop because it was so intensely interesting to me that I had to wait and find out what that music was and then trace it back to something else. And so that has led me down a lot of paths. And one of those times was listening to, there was a time, God, how many years ago? I can't remember, that a bunch of monks were traveling around the US chanting and making sand mandalas. And they came to Western North Carolina and they were down at, I think they were in Charlotte on the public radio station chanting, and I had to pull over. And
Oh,
I went to see them and when they came to Asheville, and I just sort of followed that thread to Nepal,
you
where
followed that thread. So that's how you first started going towards Nepal, was by listening and hearing something on the radio, falling in love with it, and following that thread till you made your own
yeah,
journey. What
yeah,
an
that mhm,
incredible journey. I mean,
yeah.
you've done so much now with the music from Nepal. And I was going to start with the other part, but since we're there, You have, I mean, there's one that has flute from a flute that's made from a thigh bone from the nuns of Gakyo Ling, I think it was, in one of your albums. And then you have the chants for the time of death on one. And then there are these praises of Chancerik and another one for happiness of all beings. It's like what you've recorded and what you've been drawn to is so diverse and it's so
Yeah.
intrinsically healing.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It has been very healing for me. And you know, I mean, I've sort of an extreme example of that, but you know, I give lessons, music lessons to a lot of adults who, after they retire, they want to learn how to play something. And so that healing power is available to everybody if they just dare to, you know, step into it.
I was in a group of musicians. We called ourselves the Foothills Old Time Jammers, and we all had picked up our instruments after the age of 50.
Mhm.
And it was
Yeah.
like a liberation. When did you first pick up an instrument? When did you first start playing?
Oh gosh. I think I got a ukulele when I was about 8 or something like that. I mean, we always had a piano and I sort of banged around on that. And I got a ukulele and I took music lessons. And then when I was 12 or 13, I got a guitar. Oh, I went to a school where Pete Seeger um, came every year to give a concert. And I heard him play. And
Oh,
he
nice.
really just, I realized I had to get a guitar then. So I was 13 and persuaded my parents to get me a guitar. So it was right along that. And then, yeah, I kept on with the guitar and kept playing piano. And eventually picked up the banjo. It was a lot longer after that, but the uke was my first. And the first song I learned how to play was Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier.
Wow. And now you're playing many, many instruments.
Yeah. I've I've spent a lot of time playing the upright bass, and guitar, banjo. I still play some keyboards once in a while, but not, you know, I play at a lot of instruments. You know, I have an
Playing add on,
accordion that I play with, play once in a while, and I mess around with sounds a lot and try to incorporate music. There's a really great website called Free Sound, and it has hundreds of thousands of different sounds that people have recorded, and you can download them and do stuff with them. So I do that too.
Oh, nice. That's very nice. Well, what have you found to be the most useful now? Has the way you played changed through time? Do you have a really different approach, or do you just play whenever you feel it?
Ah, well, it's changed because, yeah, it's really changed over the years. I mean, I'm less, I spent a lot of time uh, earning money doing music, and I don't do that anymore very much. I mean, I earn something, but since I was able to retire, I don't have to think that way. Uh, I played lounge music and sort of easy jazz and stuff like that, which does, you know, you can play at country clubs and hotels and stuff like that. And I did that kind of commercial music for a while as a bass player, but I was happy to give that up because,
Happy.
you know, you have to wear black and wear makeup and, you know, that kind of stuff.
I think if I wore makeup at this point in time, I would feel like I was putting on a clown face.
I can't
It's
see
been
to put it on anymore.
it's just been so long. Well, you played a lot in old time, of course. How have
Yeah.
you built community with old time music and what makes old time? And you were the founder of the Old Time Herald. What is special about old time music for you?
Well, I was one of the founders of Old Time Herald, and that was a real community effort because there were other people involved in that. Brad Leftwich, Linda Higginbotham, Gail Gillespie, Dwight Gillespie, and Alice Gerard and I all got together and started it. And so that's sort of an example of how the community works. We're all good musicians, and we all wanted to start, this magazine a long time ago. It's just, I mean, in a way, it's because so few people play old time music. We could be a community. I mean, if you play, or listen to bluegrass, it's a different kind of community because there are hundreds of thousands of people that are involved in it. And the other thing is, most of the people that are in the old time community play old time music.
Yes.
As other kinds of music, there's many more listeners than people.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Old time music is kind of boring. It's kind of boring unless you play it. Because if you don't play it, it's boring to listen to because it all sounds alike,
Kind of boring or sounding alike. I never have. Maybe my ears are different. Never. I love.
Well, I mean, if you're attracted to old time music, it's magnetic. I mean, I first heard old time music when I was 5 years old or 6 years old, and my father took me. We were living in eastern Pennsylvania, and there was a lot of old time music there because of all the people that had traveled up from Kentucky and worked in factories, Ola Belle Reed and people like that. And he took me to a thing. It was the first time I'd ever been out at night. And I heard somebody playing a fiddle on stage. And it was like, oh, I really just got hooked then hearing it.
You've said that Gordon Freeman, you've done some with Gordon Freeman, you called him, was it the one of the last authentic fiddlers? In something I had read from you. And I just wondered, what was it about him that was so special?
I loved his playing, and I loved playing with him because he had a style. He had an all-time style that was like a bowing each note style, but he played really fast. And his two of his sons were really good, are really good musicians, or one of them's dead now and Gordon's dead, but the whole family played. And his daughter is one of the central people on the Folk Heritage Committee now, and she's a really great flatfoot dancer. So it was the whole family was musical. And he was willing to sit down with me and play tunes slowly so I could play the banjo. And that's how I learned how to play the banjo, was listening to him play fiddle.
Wow. So that's how you learned to play the banjo.
Yeah.
Awesome. I thought we would take a minute to listen to one of your tunes. If Becky wouldn't mind going ahead and queuing up the first one.
Can you remind me which one you would like? There's Ferris Wheel or there's Organic Harmony?
We were thinking Ferris Wheel would fit for this because the other one's not all time.
Okay.
But does that sound good for you, Hilary? That's the one you said.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, bear with me as I get things ready here. That is not it.
Yeah, that's it. It says Ferris Wheel.
You can see it. Okay.
It's perfect. Up in the left-hand side.
All right. Here we go. Hear it?
Did you ever take a ride on a Ferris wheel? Didn't you love the way it made you feel? Way up there in the middle of the air, round and round but going nowhere. Hot dogs, spun sugar, burgers and fries. Ring the bell, win a prize. Bet on the numbers, lose a dime. Remember good old summertime when you took a ride on the Ferris wheel? Didn't you love the way it made you feel? Way up there in the middle of of the air, round and round, but going nowhere. Hot dogs, fun, sugar, burgers, and fries. Ring the bell, win a prize. Bet on the numbers, lose a dime. Remember good old summertime when you took a ride on the Ferris wheel. Didn't you love the way it made you feel? Way up there in the middle of the air, round and round, but going nowhere. Hot dogs, fun, sugar, burgers, and fries. Ring the bell, win a prize. Bet on the numbers, lose a dime. Remember good old summertime when you took a ride on the Ferris wheel. Didn't you love the way it made you?
Love that. Love that. Love
that.
that.
That makes me
Employers
want to
are
go
on
on
the
a Ferris
lookout for
wheel.
defined
Oh,
skills,
sorry.
and the University of Phoenix business degree is built on that.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. That's great.
I've got too many screens here. I'm trying to get to stop sharing, but you all carry on here while I figure this out.
All right. Thank you for doing that. And I love that song, Ferris Wheel. It makes me happy. It makes me want to skip around.
Well, I tried to make a song that went round and round and round and like a wheel, and so that worked pretty well.
It does, and it gives you the whole feeling of it. Whole feel. I mean, I'm going like this while I'm listening to it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing, I'm in a songwriting group and we send in a song every 2 weeks, and we take turns making a theme. So that was a songwriting group project.
And it never stops. Has there ever been a time where you've stopped or not had music in your life, or has it been a constant thread for everything?
No, it's just so basic part of me that it's like being able to see and hear and breathe.
It would be like asking you, has there ever been a day when you have held your breath and not been breathing?
I'm sorry, what?
It would be like asking you if there'd ever been a day when you'd held your breath all day and not breathed.
Yeah.
It's just part of living.
Yeah.
It's part of everything.
Yeah, I think so. Right. Yeah.
So being in a songwriting group, being in a playing group, this is just a constant. But you've talked too about when you first went over to Nepal. Weren't you recently in Nepal?
Oh yeah, I was over there in April with my grandson who had just graduated from high school, and I wanted him to see what I've been looking at for the last, 30 odd years. So we stayed with my musician friend and his family. I know a lot of musicians there. We stayed with him, and we also went on a short trek in the Himalayas and listened to a lot of music and just generally enjoyed the culture and what it's like there. Not as so much as tourists, but just living the life, So I went over there when I was 50 because I wanted to see Mount Everest. And also the music, the minute I got there, it was like the music was like, this is like old time music. I was listening to the guys that play the little fiddles, the sarangis on the street. And as a matter of fact, I brought back a cassette and played it for a friend of mine here who's a fiddle player, a local guy, and he listened to it. And I said, you got to listen to this tune. And he listened to it and he said, is that a Bruce Green tune? So the folk melodies are very similar to a lot of the fiddle tunes here.
Oh, that's fabulous to know, because I was wondering if there was a thread that connected the two kinds of music for you. And
that was the first thing that I heard. But after the first time I went over a couple of years after that to a Tibetan Buddhist monastery for a month. And that was just to learn about Buddhism. But there was tons of chanting. I mean, there were all these monks there chanting, and I met these nuns who were chanting and went down. And then when I went back, I made my first recording, which was a cassette of the praises of Tara, which the nuns did and still do every morning.
Oh, wow. Do you do chanting every morning? Do you do some of that yourself in the mornings?
No, but I do so it's not chanting, but it's playing chanting, but it's recitations. Like, yeah, sure, it's part of my life. I and did at one point a 3 month retreat there that was pretty intense and involved a lot of recitations. So yeah, that's integrated into my life as well as music.
Mm-hmm. We've got a question that just popped up. It says, how do I motivate myself to play an instrument? I've tried several different ones over the years.
Um, how do
I
you
can't,
motivate yourself?
I,
I
I
think
was, I was
one
thinking
of
of
the
that.
things I could think is find somebody else that's not motivated to play music, that wants to play music. Find
Mhm.
somebody else, a friend or somebody in your family. And the other thing is, you can take lessons wherever you are in just about any instrument. I mean, the woods are full of guitar teachers, banjo teachers, and ukulele is like a real good entry instrument, and there are youth groups everywhere. So,
Mhm.
you know,
It's like,
I,
finding, it sounds like finding someone who will support you in doing it. So you're not just trying to pick up an instrument all by yourself and it's you and the
yeah,
instrument only. Is that kind of
yeah,
what you're saying?
yeah. I think not being motivated means that you try it and you drop it because you feel like you can't do it. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's just you have to be smart about finding a way to do it. One way is, or the other thing is, one of my sons plays the guitar, and he just sort of dropped it for a long time. And he started looking for lessons online. There's YouTube is full of people who want to teach you,
Mhm.
and it's free.
Yeah.
And so maybe the other thing is, if you want to put my email address, give this person my email address and they want to email me, I can give them more advice. Where do they live? What instrument do they try?
And pretty much anywhere in the country, if you will know somebody who
Yeah,
plays
yes, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
anywhere in the country, you will be able to
That's
find
right.
somebody who's
Yeah,
connected
yeah.
to that.
So
Yeah.
whoever you are, just you can you'll be able to get over the non-motivation because you are motivated. You've been trying, and it's just that you didn't know what connection to make.
I found it very challenging because, that idea of beginner's mind, having the beginner's mind, the tunes that I heard were so fabulous and the tunes that I enjoyed, and people were playing them so well. And then when I picked up the fiddle, the sounds that came out were not the same as the sounds that I
Right,
had in my
right,
mind of what I wanted to make, and so
right.
there's this big gap at the beginning, you know, and
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
yeah, but
The
then you
fiddle
feel,
especially is like that. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I don't play fiddle, is because you have to drop everything else. And I would have
mm,
had to drop everything else because you had to just do the fiddle for a while.
mhm.
So,
The first I ever heard of you was on some cassettes with Bruce. You were
mhm,
playing with him on some cassettes and
yeah.
like that. And you played with so many fabulous musicians. I mean, being one yourself, it's like this
I've
enormous
I've been really
family of great
fortunate.
people.
I've been able to travel, I went to the Australia with the Orpheus Supertones for a month. That was wonderful. And I've been over to the UK several times on tours and teaching and stuff like that. And that's been really fun too.
That's
And
amazing. I I wanted to play the video that we have of you accompanying the young man in Kathmandu. You're singing he's singing a Nepali folk song called think it's Resham Firiri.
Yes.
And so I wondered if we could take a look at that and listen to you playing there too.
Sure.
Okay, Becky, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and turn on the video and we'll watch that.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay, can you see the video?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect.
We can see your whole screen.
Thank you, thank you.
That was wonderful.
Rajamani,
You want me to keep playing or shall I stop it?
this is from
Right.
Okay. That's that.
That
Well,
video.
that's a street scene in Kathmandu.
Tell us how that video came about.
Oh, well, I took some old time music friends with me to do a short trek. Callie Allen, Pete Peterson, and Jacques Lewin. And we were staying in the old Pilgrim, no, it was the Kathmandu guest house. And they have a beautiful courtyard, tropical courtyard. And we were all of us had our instruments, and we played for a while, and then I guess everybody else, but there was this one a guy who worked there. He was a gardener maybe, or a bellhop, and I sat down and I started playing that tune, and he was astonished that I knew it, and he just started singing along. It was great.
He was astonished that you knew it. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Oh yeah, I mean, most tourists, or people that Westerners that go there aren't that interested in the music, and
Wow.
I loved it. So I had learned it. I had taught myself that tune, and yeah, I had a teacher. I went over and learned some of those tunes from a sarangi player who is now, I'm a member of his family pretty much. I'm going back over in February to one of his daughter's weddings. So
Oh, how nice. One of the things that you have on one of the CDs is playing a flute that was made from a thigh bone. Is that a common instrument there?
no, it's a very rare and probably increasingly rare instrument that's only played in this one section of this one ritual. And one of the times I was at Copan to do some recording, there was a geshe there, a lama, who had a beautiful voice, and he wanted me to record this ritual. It's called chod, which is done at midnight, and it's, if you don't understand the symbolism, it's kind of gruesome. It's about chopping yourself into pieces and giving yourself away, and it's all about emptiness, the emptiness of inherent existence, and so on and so forth. I could talk about that for a long time, but anyway, so we started at midnight, and he had done this arrangement where he was singing and the nuns were singing, which is very sort of revolutionary. And at one point, he had the thigh bone flute. It had been passed down to him, and he passed it. Somebody was passed down to somebody else after he died. It was very, very old, and it was a human thigh bone, and it is only played in this one little thing. So that was it was late at night, and so yeah,
That sounds so mystical. It sounds so mystical. The idea of chopping yourself up and giving the parts away is a little bit Halloween. It's a little bit scary.
One thing about Tibetan Buddhism is they don't hold back with anything. I mean, it's like very in your face, the whole thing, which is great if you're not a visual person. I'm not a visual person. So I need lots of color and pictures, So.
Can you tell me about how you came to do the chants of the Hopi monks, the chants for the time of death?
Oh,
and what
yes.
that means to you?
Well, I got to be really good friends with that monastery, and he got really interested in doing that, because there isn't a whole lot available for Westerners, right? When you're dying, I mean, Western Buddhists, Tibetan Buddhists, and so he made this whole set of chants. He put them together, and we recorded it in the monastery, and it's now available. All the albums are available now as downloads from an organization that's and I have all these CDs at home that are like yesterday's thing, Anyway, and he himself passed away, but that was how that came about. I was working with a nun who's a good friend of mine, who was originally from Germany, but she is a Tibetan Buddhist nun, and she and I made a sort of partnership to produce all these recordings, and that was one of them.
Do you feel like that listening to it, this is a little bit of an esoteric question, but does listening to the chants for the time of death help you feel less fear of death, or erase the fear of death, and help you embrace the idea that this is part of living?
Right. Yes, there's a whole methodology around the dying process and what happens in terms of Buddhism afterwards, the bardo, and what are the things that you go through there. And this is just part of that whole slew of writings and teachings and chants and stuff that go along with it. There's a real interesting book called the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or the Book of the Between by Robert Thurman. That's really good. That goes into that whole thing. I mean, everything is like this hole that you could go down, and there's this whole universe of writings and teachings and art and music, associated with it.
Yeah,
and
you can't just cover it in 2 minutes, but there's this
no,
whole
no,
entire,
no, no, no,
yeah,
no.
Yeah, this is a world religion for many years. Yes, you also did the praises of Tara, and there was one I can't remember which one it was that you give back the money for it. If any money is raised for it, it goes back to the nuns who did it. And I
Yeah,
thought that was really
that was the nuns of
wonderful.
Tsum. There were four
True, true.
nuns that actually made the trip from their valley down to Kathmandu so I could record them in a music studio. So
Mhm.
that was a real thing. I had to find somebody who would record it. And actually, he is a really great guy who has his own a big recording studio now. And I've done another project with him too. And so he rented a studio from somebody else, and the nuns came in, and none of them spoke English, and none of them spoke. One of them spoke Nepali. I mean, they have their own language up there. They don't even speak Nepali, and so we managed to, and the engineer, who's now my friend, he didn't speak much English, and my Nepali isn't very good. So in between these three languages, we were able to figure out what we were going to do. And so that was a real fun project.
We shared the language of music. You all had that
Yeah,
love. The
yeah,
other
that's
languages
right.
were a little bit hard to
Yeah.
follow. Did you ever go to Zoom to that? I mean, it sounds like a long trek.
I was able to go there years later. I think I went there maybe 5 years ago. Just an opportunity came up. A bunch of Tibetan Buddhist students who were Chinese people from Kuala Lumpur, they're from in Indonesia, were flying up to present the nuns. Most of them are young, and they're in school, and they had collected money in Kuala Lumpur for iPads that had loaded with how to speak English, math, science, stuff like that. And so I was able to go up with them. Went up in 3 or 4 helicopters because it takes, days and days and days to walk there. And it's a real tough climb. And it's this completely unspoiled valley. And we went up. It was May, and we landed in the snow, which melted, and we had to take all our own food with us too in the helicopters, and we stayed there for a week. And I saw them where they live in their monastery, or their nunnery, which includes horses, because they have to take them up to the Tibet border to buy food. So that was quite an amazing place. It was probably the remote I've ever been. And it was a real honor to be able to go there and see such a pure society and culture.
What was it? What was it like there? When I think of nuns, of course, I have the sort of the old American trope in my mind. Is this how was there a difference in terms of
Oh yeah, they're really different. Like I said, they're really loud, and they're athletic, I guess you could say. I mean, they live, near glaciers, and at 10,000 feet in a mountain valley, and they've all grown up there, growing all their own food, and having basically to take care of themselves, or all the families take care of themselves. And a lot of and the other thing is the reason there's also another nunnery up there, I think, and it's because for until really recently, when there's more communication and helicopters can go up there and stuff, either they had to get married or go into a nunnery.
oh, those were the two choices?
Well, it was the two choices that women in the Middle Ages had in Europe too.
Mhm, mhm.
So a lot of the women that became nuns are women that don't want to get married and want to learn how to read and want to, so It was probably like that in medieval times too, here or in Europe.
That
So
makes sense.
they tend to be, I mean, they tend to be pretty rambunctious. Tibetans are pretty rambunctious people, you know. They don't hold back, and they're very talkative and, you know, lively. And the nuns are like that too.
How is it that you went from being somebody who was just visiting Nepal because it was interesting, and to someone who was visiting this rare and amazing place,
Well,
7 days trek away?
I
You
think
know,
it wasn't the first time I've been there in this life. I mean, first time I went in this life, I was like, oh yeah, you know, it was like, oh yeah. And I was just so attracted to the people, the food. It was like, I loved the food, I loved the music. And I think as a Buddhist, I would say that I've been there before, you know.
so it felt like home
That's
in a way.
yeah. Oh yes, it did. You know, it was like, oh, I'm finally here. It felt like.
Yeah, I'm finally here, like you made
But
it.
I've also been yeah, I've been an adventurous person all my life, pretty much too. So
Where,
you
where,
know, it's not entirely out of character.
where's the source of your courage? To me, it takes a lot of courage to do the kinds of things that you've done in your life. It takes a lot of courage. You know, you're not afraid to travel alone. You're not afraid to go places you've never been all over the world. You just do it, you know. You feel it and you do it. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I mean, there are things I'm afraid of, but it's not those kind of things. It's more social kind of things, you know.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the music world, and even the old time music world, is kind of competitive, and it's just it can be sort of almost cutthroat, you know. And I feel very hesitant sometimes about like joining jams. Are they going to want me to join the jam and that kind of stuff? So that's where that fear comes in.
Wait. Did you just say you would have a fear of
Yeah.
joining the
Oh
gym?
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
sorry. That's not
Yeah.
computing in my brain.
Yeah. I mean, but that's where, I mean, I'm because that whole thing about new places and new food and new, you
Mhm.
know, new experiences, that has never, that I'm not afraid of that, but I am socially like, that's where that comes in for me.
That's so
Social, you know.
interesting because you do a lot to uplift other musicians. You know, I mean, you teach at the Celestial um,
I used to teach when
place.
it was
Or you,
there. That's yeah,
uh,
there,
yeah, and you've taught lots of musicians, and you've reached out to
yeah,
lots of people so that they would overcome that and they'd be able to, you know, play comfortably wherever they went and
right,
that kind of thing. I mean, you empower other people to do that.
right. But you know, and maybe I'm good at it because I know how they feel, you know,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I mean, you're probably good at what you do because you know how people feel.
What a sweet thing. What a sweet thing to say. What a sweet way to think about it. Yeah, because you've got that compassion. You've
Yeah,
got that link or that empathy. Mhm.
right.
You know, when I look at just, I think about all that you've done in your life so far, even, I can't imagine there's a whole lot left on your bucket list. I mean, you've done so many things. Is there anything that you still want to do that's left undone, or place that you want to see?
Hmm.
Or music you want to experience?
I don't know. Uh, you know, I really, I mean, I'm so interested in sounds. You know, I probably, if I had to narrow it down to one thing that I haven't done a whole lot of, it would be using sounds to make music.
Using sounds to make music.
Yeah, there was one piece that I did, and I can't remember which one it was, that was the first, I used the sound of, somebody had recorded, I mean, there's a whole world of people that are into sounds, and it's, you know, full of sound nerds, of which I am becoming one. They had made a recording of, they put a microphone on a railing on the Golden Gate Bridge, while that picked up the sound in the vibration of the metal of all the cars going back and forth on it. And it was this great sound. And I used it as the basis for a piece of music that had other weird stuff in it. You know, that's that kind of thing. I mean, I could immerse myself in the world of just sounds and turning them into music. It's a really interesting area.
Yeah. Has that been something that's been true all your life? Just listening to the
No,
sound?
no. Well, maybe I have been, but it's just because of the internet, there's all this stuff that's available, you know, and you know, if I could go back and learn more stuff, I would probably go to recording, learn more about recording engineering. I mean, I record all my own stuff and layer it and all that, but I'm not really that good at it, and I don't know how to use really complicated systems, and there's a lot of stuff I don't know how to do, and I wish I did. But I'm not going to immerse myself in it because my learning curve is now on the downswing. You know what I mean? It's hard to learn a huge technical bunch of stuff.
Well, there's already so much in there. You know, that's the way I think about it for myself. There's so much in there. I don't know what else I want to fit in there, you know, in my mind and my brain.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, you know, I have enough in there so that I can keep going with what I've got, probably, you know.
Yeah. And you said you'd been to Australia, the UK, obviously Nepal. What place, Nepal, is that what draws you the most? Is that where your
Yeah.
second home is?
Well,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Kathmandu. I mean, of all the major cities in the world, the one I know my way around in is Kathmandu. You know, I don't get lost in Kathmandu.
That's so funny because I am notorious for getting lost. Like I can get lost going to the grocery store in my hometown. I can get lost. And when I was in a certain part of France, I never got lost. I just
Right.
never got, I just always knew where I was. I always, it was like there's, and my sister was over there with me at one point.
Yeah.
She says, I feel like I haven't even met you. You never lost. So sometimes I think there are places that just ground us. It's almost like it's a natural habitat. You know how plants have
Yes.
natural habitats? I think we
Right.
too have our natural habitats where we feel
Right.
more
Right.
comfortable and less lost or whatever. Well, we have another piece of music that you said that I want to go ahead and play now for you because I'm looking down and I want to make sure we have a chance to play it for stop.
Hey, give me a second here.
Okay. Because there's just such diversity in what you do, Hilary. There's such diversity and such intensity.
Oh, this one. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Forgot to unmute it from the last one.
You're good.
There you go. That's it. Organic harmony, singing bowls, and wood thrush.
Oh,
Sales records with the world's best converting checkout.
That's not it.
Hear that one more.
sorry, I
here.
don't have a subscription to SoundCloud, so I'm not able to.
Oh, you shouldn't need it though.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
You were able to play that last one.
Yeah, you did that good.
There it is. You got it.
There you go. Oh, love. When I listen to that, if I close my eyes, I'm literally transported.
Yeah, it was. I like got on a real wood thrush kick for a while because they're great. We live right on the edge of the woods, and they're just like each one of them is different. So I made a 15-minute recording or something of that wood thrush, and then tried to edit it so that I got the truck noise out and stuff because when the trucks go by and stuff like that. And then I also had spent a lot of time messing around with singing bowls, just because I have about 3 or 4 of them. And so I tried to line the bowls up so that when they played together, it would make this third kind of noise. And then sometimes the thrush would come in too. And it's like, it's almost excruciating to listen to some of it. You know, but when it all sort of hangs together, it was really fun doing that. I enjoyed it.
It's fun to listen to. It feels like you're kind of flying. For me, it feels like I'm kind of flying the little wood thrush through the woods. That's the way it feels.
Yeah.
We're really low on time, and there was one question I wanted to ask before we finished. And that is, if you could go back in time to the little girl that you were, and in this lifetime, you could go back in time to the little girl that you were, what would you want to tell her to help take her forward to where you are? And is there anything that you would want to share with somebody who's on maybe the earlier part of their own healing journey?
I would say to myself that it's okay to feel what you're feeling and to talk about it and express it, because that was deliberately negated at the time by the people responsible for me, who were my parents, who just, because they didn't want to deal with it themselves, they didn't want me to deal with it. And it was just like, oh, well, just forget about it, And I would say to myself, no, don't forget about it. You need to feel what you feel about it. And that's okay. There is nothing wrong with feeling bad and scared and that it was your fault or whatever, because I had to deal with that jumble in my mind myself. And of course, didn't do that great with it,
Because you were doing it on your own. Yeah. Were you supported by your family and your music? And in that part?
Sort of, I guess. I mean, I think, my father played the French horn and with the piano some, and but I think as a hobby, I mean, he was a high-powered economics professor who gave Senate testimony and stuff like that. And so it was always sort of accepted as kind of a hobby or thing that was fun to do, but I don't think they ever realized, and they were sort of upset that I didn't have go and get a degree and have a profession, like something like that. And so they never disparaged it, but they certainly didn't encourage it, really.
And so what you tell yourself is that it's okay to feel what you feel. And to
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and to experience all of it. Not just the happy parts,
Right. To experience every emotion. I mean, anger was kind of forbidden in our house too. I mean, you weren't supposed to express much of any kind of emotion, and so it was always sort of everything was tamped down, turned down, the volume was turned down on life, kind of. So
That's so interesting. That's the opposite of what you said about the Tibetan nuns.
Yeah.
The opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
How fabulous. Well, it's 4 o'clock And I do not want to stop talking to you, but I know I have to give you back to the day. And I
Well,
want to
it's
just thank you.
it's been really, really interesting to get into all of this, you know.
You're fascinating. I love your life. I really do. And I hope everyone will find your website and find you. It's like finding a treasure in the world.
Well, it would be better for people to find me on Facebook, because the only thing my website does now is that's how I sell my books.
Okay.
You know, I haven't updated it in years, and I would have to go back to square one and figure out how to do it. So my real present life is on Facebook, and you know, anybody who wants to get in touch with me, they can get in touch with me that way, really.
So
Yeah.
nice. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us.
Well, thank you for doing it, and thank you for doing the tech work here also. And
My pleasure.
good. This has
Thank,
been great.
thank you
Thanks.
both so much.